We also welcome DD Director and we also welcome DD Director and Librarian. He is a statutory officer, Librarian.
Center lah, just center. Just take a
My warm greetings to everyone present here. Honorable chairpersons, distinguished guests, esteemed delegates, academicians, and scholars. Welcome to the highly anticipated international conference, Future Communications, Rethinking Societies, Culture, and Governance, hosted by the Department of Electronic Pondicherry University, India. Today we gather here from across the globe to explore the ever-evolving landscape of communication and its profound impact on our societies, culture, and governance structure. Over the next 3 days, we will exchange in thought-provoking discussions, exchange innovative ideas, and chart a course towards a more connected, inclusive, and sustainable future with leading experts, visionaries, and changemakers who will share their insights, research findings, and innovative approaches to addressing the challenges and opportunities in the field of communication. Auroville, an international township located in Tamil Nadu, founded by Mira Alfasa, promotes sustainable living, holistic education, and culture exchange. We will be having a field visit to Auroville on the 10th of April to experience human unity and peace. May I now invite the dignitaries to the dais. Director, Culture and Cultural Relations, Professor Clement S. Lorde, Dean, School of Media and Communication, Professor R. Sebukan, Head of the Department and Organizing Secretary, Dr. Radhika Khanna, Conference Director, Professor Arul Selvan, Assistant Director, Center for Diversity and Inclusion at Buena Vista University, USA, Professor Artemis Prashil, Professor Philippe Bonfils, University of Toulon, France, Miss Uma Prajapati from Upasana, Auroville, and our Associate Professor, Dr. Santi Siri. Pondicherry, apart from its scenic beauty, with its calmness, provide an environment to introspect, think, imagine, and intellectually build oneself. As we appreciate this land, we delve deep into the dedicated state anthem of Pondicherry. May I request everyone to please rise. To the host university, we extend our gratitude by indulging in the university anthem. I request everyone to kindly take their seats. I also thank librarian Dr. Vijay Kumar and director DDE Dr. Arvind Gupta for gracing this event with their presence. I now request distinguished guests Professor Clement S. Lorde, Professor R. Sebukan, Dr. Radhika Khanna, Professor Arul Selvan, Professor Artemis Prashil, Professor Philip Bonfil, and Miss Uma Prajapati to kindly light the lamp. I now request our head of the department and organizing secretary to honor the dignitaries. I now invite Head in Charge and Organizing Secretary Dr. Radhika Khanna to deliver the welcome address.
Welcome to all of you who have joined us today on this momentous occasion of starting the International Conference on Future Communications, Rethinking Societies, Cultures and Governance. I welcome Professor Clement Lutz, our Director, Cultural Relations, and a very, very prolific and gifted artist who has given the joy of art to the entire university and the entire world. He's not only an English professor and the Director of Cultural Relations, but an extremely fine, gentle soul who, through his art, continues to spread the joy of creativity and art We will share his work with you later. I welcome Professor Sevukun, our Dean, who's been supportive all along. Of course, all our French delegates, Professor Philippe Bonfils, who's on the dais, and Professor Michel Durampa and Professor Hervé Zonoda, who are off the dais. I welcome the French delegation, and we look forward to signing a framework of agreement and MOU on Wednesday, if things go well. And I also welcome today our keynote address speaker, Professor Artemis from America, and I'm really looking forward to listening to her speak. And thank you for accepting our invitation and coming here. Thank you so much. I welcome Uma Prajapati, who I know for 30 years, a dear friend and a seeker and a co-traveler on the path of spiritual unfoldment. Thank you, Uma, for accepting our invitation. I welcome Dr. Belu Mehra, who will be speaking to us, also a dear friend now, who is also working on the inner and the outer communication. I welcome Lakshadharan, who has been our collaborator and has helped to put together the collaboration with the Auroville International Township. Also, I welcome all of you here from various parts of the country and the world. And I know that we are going live right now on YouTube, so I don't know who's listening to us and who's with us wherever in the world. But whoever you are and wherever you are, we warmly welcome you from the Pondicherry University. And we really hope that all of us together can change the world a little bit through better communication. And with this, I now hand over to Professor Arul Selvan for a thematic address. Sir, please.
Good morning to everyone. Respected dignitaries on the dais and our guests from France and other places, CUTN and Auroville and other places. This is to give you the context in which the conference was planned and how we conceived the idea of future communications. And actually, we thought of when the technology is growing more and more, does it serve the humanity equally, and what is the issue in that? And we found that there is a growing inequality, and though there is a huge advancements in every technology, there is a growing inequalities everywhere, and particularly in name of caste and race and religion everywhere, that we have been growing with that, and how to address that. And particularly if you look at communication, journalism studies, there is a growing avoidance of news. There's a culture of avoiding news and looking for escapist content. And in the recent Man Ki Baat, Prime Minister also mentioned about that we need to look into avoid newsreels, which is affecting the growing generations. So news avoidance is growing more and more. This is also one of the concerns that has been raised when you think about future, that only when you take stock of what is going on in the present, you can think about the future, right? So this actually, how this affects the news avoidance or about escapist content, does it affect the culture, governance, and the growing society? That actually, Election Commission of India, if you look at the recent issues they have flagged, so far they have flagged only the issue of urban apathy. Only the elite and the people in the upper class, they used to avoid taking part in the elections. Now, there's a huge young generation, that the first generation voters, they are not registered with the Election Commission at all for voting. And this is being connected with the kind of culture we have. Technology is developing, and they have a huge apathy towards the growing participation in the democracy, which will severely affect the future of democracy. On the other hand, we also thought about climate change. Without touching climate change, you cannot think about the future. So the conference decided to avoid any kind of plastic or single-use plastic in the conference. And we thought that the climate change will be a significant theme in the entire debates and discussions. And with these growing concerns, we thought about connecting the past with the present and think about the future, particularly on the culture and governance. And we have scheduled one keynote address, and that is, we all know that Artemis is here, that she'll be talking about life and existential threat in the time of cipher shift. And we have one inaugural address by Uma Prajapati, who is here, and one invited talk by Dr. Belu Mehra. She'll be talking on rethinking communication beyond polarities. And we have 3 panel discussions, one for today and 2 for tomorrow. And one theme is on hidden code, risks and trends in AI-powered social media. The second will be about spiritual, from the personal to the political. The third one will be about media and gender politics. Apart from that, we have received huge number of, precisely 132 papers for the presentation the next 3 days. And we have scheduled on 22 technical sessions, which will start from after the inauguration. And one film screening has been planned during the 3rd day, and that will be on gender, equity, diversity, and inclusion by men against violence and abuse. And also a field visit, as Radhika mentioned about, there will be a field visit to Auroville to look into the experiential learning. With this, I pass it on to the mic to the next speaker to talk about. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Arul Selvan. For the presidential address, I invite Director, Culture and Cultural Relations, Pondicherry University, Professor Clement Lorde to the dais.
Respected Professor Radhika Khanna, Head and Organizing Secretary, Professor S. Arul Selvan, Professor R. Sevagan, Professor Philip Bonfils, Miss Uma from Auroville, Professor Artemis and Professor Sandhistri, research scholars, faculty from other departments, invited guests, and my dear students. It is a privilege for me to stand before you and deliver my speech on this significant day. And the topic seems to be a little bit baffling to me when I saw it. A very challenging one and also very ambitious. And future communications, rethinking societies, cultures, and governance. This seems to be a very big topic, almost ocean-like. And when I went through the folder, because especially for a teacher from the language department, everything would be a little bit baffling, especially subjects of this kind. But when I went through the folder, I found 2 sub-themes, and those 2 sub-themes interested me a lot. One is art and creativity as experience of spiritual healing. I think this is the need of the hour, and rightly you have taken so. The second one is integrating spirituality with health and human development. A more precise topic that would be relevant to our society, we can't even imagine. To that extent, these 2 topics attracted me because for a very long time, being a student of literature and later as a faculty of literature and language, I found that there is a battle going on between man and machine. And this has been very keenly felt during the 18th century. And the 18th century is a very important period in English literature. This is called the Augustan Age. And in this Augustan Age, very great scholars emerged. And one such scholar is Dr. Johnson, the lexicographer, and the one who compiled our English dictionary. And the other one is a very great poet, Goldsmith, and Boswell. And Lot of other writers, I can go on citing, the names of the writers. But what all the writers have been telling us that this is the age, think that they are talking about the 18th century, where we fall slaves to machines. And machines have become our masters. And they are dictating terms on us. And later, Mahatma Gandhi also took up the same topic when he wrote his first English book. And that is the only book that he wrote in English. Even though he happened to be a voluminous author, and any library would house the books of Mahatma Gandhi, 50 volumes or 60 volumes, but all those are translations only. The only book that he wrote in English is Hindu Swaraj. And in Hindu Swaraj, he talks about the machines and how we fall a victim to these type of modern developments easily. Doesn't mean that Mahatma Gandhi is against the modern society or our development. But if you read it, you will be able to know much about it, because the entire book has been written in the form of a conversation between the editor and the reader. This is a kind of a way Socrates taught. Only by using some kind of conversation we will be able to get to know the truth, not a teacher-like attitude the author takes up and then writing a book of his own. And that has not been encouraged by Mahatma Gandhi. And even when you take the Deserted Village, the most important book in the 18th century by Goldsmith, there is a quote. And this has become an oft-quoted line from Goldsmith. Ill fares the land to hastening ills a prey, where wealth accumulates and men decay. I think this has been brought forth by Arul Selvan when he was talking about the theme of this seminar. Ill fares the land to hastening ills a prey, where wealth accumulates and men decay. So what is the use of our wealth? What is the use of our development when we are not having that spiritual wealth which we are supposed to have? That is the most important one. Men are decaying, but wealth is increasing. And this is something which is needless according to them. That is why, to a question put to Mahatma Gandhi, why animals are decreasing in the forest, he said, because they are increasing in the city. I think that he has made the correct observation, because we live in a tension-torn world, and in every border there is a skirmish across, and there is a kind of a battle. Our former general once remarked that we are actually fighting an undeclared war almost every day. He never used the word battle. He never used the word skirmish. But he used the word war. That is supposed to be the biggest one that you can go for. That is going on in every border, because people are the ones who have lost their peace of mind. For the sake of land, for the sake of wealth, for the sake of luxury, they can go to any extent. That is the problem that you are facing. But you must remember what Dr. Allison said when he invented the atomic bomb. He was instrumental behind the atomic bomb. And when the press reporters asked him, "Sir, how do you feel now after the invention of atomic bomb?" He said, "Yes, for some time it gave me some kind of excitement. But the excitement has gone totally now. And I am thinking about that I have done a mistake. Because there is no other weapon that would act with this powerful and potential weapon that I have created. A scientist creating something and then telling that I have no responsibility over it is not a scientist at all. And I feel that I am a scientist of that kind. I belong to that category of scientist, creating something and then saying that I have no responsibility over it. Let it take its own avatar." How can a scientist say so? This is what Allison felt. And again, when Allison asked, "Is there any other counter weapon that could interact with this weapon that you have created? He said, yes, still we have left with one weapon. We can't call it as a weapon, but let me put it simply, peace. That is the only weapon that can interact with the weapon that I have created. Otherwise, no other weapon can do anything with this atomic bomb that I have created. And when you go to the place where the atomic bomb was dropped, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, there is a signboard. And the signboard says, rest in peace, this error will not be repeated. Rest in peace, this error will not be repeated. But many great thinkers are of the opinion the error will be repeated at any time. And we are all be prepared for it. That is what some countries are doing. Okay, and therefore we can't say that we are living in a very peaceful atmosphere. And when you take a very notable writer in the 20th century, and you all be knowing about her, Arundhati Roy. After the publication of her first book, she has become tremendously popular. And she got the Booker Prize. After that, she didn't write anything at all. She never came out with any other novel. But she thought that people must be told about what is happening in reality. And there is no point in sending them to a world of imagination. Because we are not actually living in an age where we can be satisfied with our imagination, where we can be satisfied with the world of literature and world of fiction. And that is why she wrote the very famous essay called The End of Imagination. The End of Imagination is about our demonstration of the atomic bomb. It happened during the time of our former president. At the time he was not the president, but Dr. Abdul Kalam was the man behind it. We experimented with atomic bomb, and some critics are of the opinion that we are now having, the problems that are being created in South India may be due to that. But we can't wholeheartedly accept that because India needs development, India needs growth, but at the same time, Arundhati Roy questions whether this is something which is very essential for a developing country like India. If it happens so in one particular place, it will happen in other countries as well. Even in smaller countries will again take up this kind of the example that we set. And what will happen to the world at last? Arundhati Roy ends the essay by saying, it took millions and millions of years to create the world. In one afternoon, in a flash of a second, you can finish it off. Everything is in your hands only. Okay. Similarly, he wrote another famous essay, and the greater common good. This is about our government policy. The huge construction of dams all over India. Okay, this is one thing that is appreciable, but not at the cost of human lives. And not at the cost of simply transporting or transplanting the human beings to another area, giving them from some kind of false promise that everything that they lose, they will get back. But unfortunately, it is not happening. And Arundhati Roy went there to that particular site where the promise is made and found that people are transplanted, but the transplanted people have not been taken care of. And if it is so, then what is the point of constructing the huge dams? And what is the point in taking care about only the majority? That is why you look at the title, The Greater Common Good. And this is the answer that you get from the government. Whenever this issue is raised, the government is there only for the greater common good. And if the lesser people are affected because of this, the government holds no responsibility. It is bound to happen. When a mighty tree falls on the ground, it is bound to crush some small plants. We are not taking care about that. It is the order of the day. In that way only we are going. And the one point that I would like to stress, what CM joked about the future, in the next world war, men will fight with atomic bombs. And in the war after next, he will fight with bows and arrows. I hope that you can understand. The entire civilization will be wiped out and we have to restart another civilization. To that extent, we will bring the world to the brim of destruction and disaster. And in that way, if you take about, as I already told you, integrating spirituality with health and human development, certainly this would give you a scope of how to face problems. Is it possible for a spiritual man to face the challenging problems, especially in the world of health? I would certainly say yes. And take the case of Ramana Maharishi, Annamalai. This particular saint has been hailed to the skies by all his devotees, and even if you read his books, you will understand what sort of man is he. And unfortunately, during the end of his days, that he had a problem of cancer, that too on his elbow. And the doctor said that he has to undergo a surgery, to which he has accepted it. But he made a condition to the surgeon who came to visit him next morning. When are you going to do it? Sir, today, if you are feeling well. Okay, I'm all right. You can start the operation. But one thing, don't give me cocaine or don't give me any other of, the usual drugs that you give, so that I will not be feeling the pain. And I know how to take care of myself. The doctor started shivering. Sir, because he also happened to be one of the devotees of Sri Aurobindo, Ramana Maharishi. And he said, sir, that my surgical knife will go into your flesh at least 3 or 4 inches. And how are you going to manage it? Just a small, sharp wound will be enough. You will start shouting. He said, give me half an hour before you start the surgery. I know how I can make it. And immediately the surgery was conducted. Half an hour earlier, he has underwent what we call Maranasana. Maranasana means that you become a dead body. After that, what happens to you? You may not be aware of it. And only when you realize your being later, you will get to know what it is. But in his case, Ramana's case, that nothing happened. And in fact, he conducted the surgery without giving cocaine, without giving any other drug. The operation was conducted and everyone knows that. And some devotees wrote about it, but he has not gone any kind of pain. He never showed in his face that he is undergoing pain. Nothing of that kind. So, how the spiritual things work out, especially in the case of these men belonging to the 6th race, because you can't categorize them among the 5 races. You have to start another race, and then only we will be able to place them. To that extent that the spirituality works out, and if the young students come to know about it, probably they may be able to share their ideas in a very clear and in a very grand manner. And this seminar, along with all the usual themes that go with it, will also look into the art, creativity, and the spiritual sides of things also. This is my wish, and I congratulate you for taking up such a beautiful theme as the area of interest. And I also wish every student who is taking part in this wonderful seminar, and if the seminar is good, and if the seminar is conducted in the proper way, every credit goes to the head only. And I need not tell about my good friend, Professor Radhika Khanna, and she is always, very friendly and cordial with me, and one of the lovers of my art. And therefore I am very happy that I am sure that this program will come out with very rewarding, stimulating, and beautiful experience to one and all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Clement, for the insightful presidential address and connecting the theme beautifully with the works of Gandhi, Arundhati Roy Goldsmith, War and Wealth, and many more I can't keep a count of. So now I request Dean, School of Media and Communication, Professor R. Sivakan, to felicitate the inaugural event.
Respected Director,
also called Pro Vice Chancellor. For other delegates from other countries, it is actually Pro Vice Chancellor. He is next to the Vice Chancellor. And you have already witnessed how he spoke. I am one of his fans in this university, of his speech every time. At least after his directorship, I have attended more than 15 events of his presence on various occasions. But I have never seen a repetition in his talk. Every time he talks different. I am really so happy with that, and I'm surprised. That is, what says even Madam also in the morning. Dr. Belumera was asking me, as Dean, you are an administrator, are you able to teach? Are you able to devote time? But now our director, you cannot see a course in our HRDC, which is meant for the teachers attending from across the country. Without his class, no course will get over. Even being the director, he never misses his classes. And also he's a very good artist. Not with the sophisticated material, only with the pen, pencil, and beyond that, thread. These three are the only materials that he uses, but fantastic portrait you will get, for every artist. So we are so happy to have him here, because I have taken little more time to talk about our director, because he deserves. So that is why I had to spend about 1 minute. Next is then the other dignitaries like Professor Arul, Dr. Radhika Khanna, and Professor Philip, Dr. Uma, and also Professor Artemis, who is going to give a keynote, Dr. Santishri, and my colleagues, Dr. Lenin, Dr. Hanif, and two actually statutory officers we have here, Dr. M. Vijay Kumar, the University Librarian, and Dr. Arvind Gupta, the Director of Distance Education, who is also here, and all my colleagues, Dr. Bala, Dr. Nivedita, Dr. Muthamil, and many more. I can't name everyone, but all of them are my very good friends, and also the delegates from particularly Toulon University. They are the people who made it, as an international event. I was really wondering when Dr. Radhika approached me for proposing this event just only 3 months ago. 3 months ago, I said how it would be possible. It is an international event. We have to mobilize funds for that to make it a grand success. And secondly, I said getting grants, that also requires a lot of time, minimum 3 months. So she said, still it is possible, sir, I can manage. So then, I was really surprised the way she was working. For about 3 months, believe it or not, except Toulon University, we did not get even a single pie from any agency. Only through registrations she has achieved. So that was the publicity given by her to wider audience, and many people are here, and we are able to manage with that only that fund. And again, I also appreciate that her hard work. I thought it may not be possible. Reason is, in between she met with some injury. For that she had to take bed rest for about a month. But in spite of that, she started coming to the office only to make this event happen successfully. And we quickly planned to make this event happen. We also formed a good number of committees. Believe it or not, just 10 days ago. 10 days ago, we formed committees. Still, when I spoke to her, she said that still it is possible, sir. Very cool. Very cool. And then I thought, though she was sick, she was not able to move properly. Still, I thought that she has wheels on feet and wings on hands, all the 24/7. I don't know when she sleeps. All the time she was working, and she has made it, really a complete success based on her hard working and the efforts of the team members. So I felicitate Dr. Radhika, who has really done this event wonderfully well to make it a complete success. And also all my team members, like Santishri, the other committee members, Professor Arul, who is the conference director. And he is a man of, perfection. And always, he looks at the things. If anything goes wrong, he will not leave. And also that when we had a series of meetings, he mentioned a good number of points which will carry a wrong message, negative message by the delegates who are coming from different parts of the country and outside as well. So those points, were well taken care of, because as a senior most faculty in the department, he always gives advices and guidance to all of us. And this has, become a true success only because of his, ideas extended by many people. And also I felicitate the Toulon University who has made it possible. They are the people who really motivated. And Dr. Radhika, when she said, there are 3 people coming from Toulon and we have to make use of their presence. And also when we had informal discussion in the morning, Professor Arul Silvan and Dr. Hanif, they were mentioning that though the 3 who have come here, all real stalwarts in the field of media, and we have already visited France, and the way they were extending the hospitality and the technical knowledge that they shared, there is no match to that. So that is why this has happened. So all those 3 who were actually exchanging their ideas with our own people are here, and they would, I hope they would all really extend at this time also by sharing their vast knowledge with all our people. And again, I felicitate each one of you on the dais and off the dais due to lack of time, because we have another important meeting going on at the university. That's why all people have left. I will have to be there by 11 sharp. It will start. So with these few words, I thank really the organizing team, and I appreciate the efforts, what they have taken, and also I congratulate the entire team for making this even a grand success. And I wish you all the best, to have wonderful discussions the next 3 days, through which, as my colleague Dr. Arul Selvan said, analyzing the past to, link with the current for better future. And my concern is that always, since we talk about the communication, I always, in the perspective of scholarly communication, I talk wherever I go. But as our director, culture also mentioned, the countries, developing countries, particularly like India, the way we are growing towards scholarly publications is not up to the expectations. So this is the right forum. We have even a theme on AI generated contents, and particularly this AI generatives have inflated the scholarly publications that are available, which has created complex environment for the future researchers. So this has to be properly sensitized, and this is the forum where we can influence the people from particularly media. In turn, they can disseminate the knowledge, whatever they are going to gain here, to the future generations for better communications, to future communications. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, Professor Sevakan, for felicitating the event. I request Professor Philippe Bonfils from University of Toulon, France, to felicitate the event.
Thank you very much. So we'd like to thank you again, all, and particularly Radhika, for organizing this international conference. And as Professor Sevakan said, it was 3 months ago that we talked about this, and we were supposed to do it in about 2 months. It was crazy. And I would like to congratulate all the team, all the students, because I know you had a hard work to organize this. We have quite a long-term relationship together, and it's been about 7 years, I think. And we would like to enlarge this collaboration for the future, so I hope we're going to get any kind of agreement for the future, and we invite you, some of you like Joab, Roussel, and you are welcome in France, and I hope it's going to be the same in the future for you or other, and also students, because I think we should exchange professors, scholars, of course, but also students. So all the students here, if you're interested to make a semester in France in our faculty, you'll be welcome. So I wish you a very good conference with all those thematics, all those things. The interesting talk before from the Professor Lourdes highlights those thematics, and I hope it's going to be fine for all of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Philip. I now request Ms. Uma Prajapati to deliver the inaugural address.
Good morning, Vanakkam. Greetings from Auroville. I'm very happy to be part of today's conversation on future communication, rethinking society, culture, and governance. I'm not from communication background as such as my work. I come from a design background, but I deal a lot with communication. And it's often, I'm amazed with the gap it holds and how lightly we think about communication, or we talk about it, go into the depth of it, the whole life. In our earlier speaker, there are 2-3 words has come in. Spirituality was repeated rather more than 10 times, and peace came in, and sense of wellness for us. How much communication has facilitated that space for us? It needs our attention. Most of the crisis, most of conflicts is a crisis and conflict of conversation. Mismanaged, badly managed. And while I speak or spend time with young people and creative projects, very often we struggle with that space. And what has been predicted, especially now that post-COVID there is a new emergence, wellness has taken a very center space in our life, in our work, in our emotion, the way we want to design our life and the way we want to operate our life. The whole industrial society had to go through a restructuring itself when the work from home became, it was a necessity, then it became a choice. And this choice has been on the table for really to look at how to handle that, how to redesign work where industry thought that everybody has to come to the factory and then they would work. So what I'm pointing it out is to notice what's emerging in the society right now. And there is a prediction of 3C is going to govern our life. Communication is one of them. And you know what is the second one? Any guess? 3C is going to be very important for us. Sorry? Commitment. Oh, that's very nice. Yeah. One more? Connection? Okay. Challenge? Okay. What else? Creativity. Yes, and culture. I see communication is very much, it's kind of, when we speak, we also speak passively about culture without knowing. But creativity, yes, is the second C. Thinking out of the box and not following the path which we have been following so far. And that's sector neutral space. It does not demand you to be from any department per se, but you can be anywhere and you can be creative. And that's very powerful spaces as invitation has emerged. And guess, third one. Community. On 10th, you're going to visit a beautiful community called Auroville. It's a future city, but we like to address it as a community for now. We all living in our nuclear spaces, and it has given us a lot of freedom. Young people, ask them, they want to go travel alone, live alone, this and all of that. This nuclear space is a very, very captivating space for us to begin with. And that lifestyle has not worked. There's a high rate of suicide, the high rate of depression and confusion. And today the trend is emerging. I don't want to own a car. I want to go for Uber. So this sense of collective and sharing and WhatsApp groups and doing things together, and it's a being in a community, the third C is very, very powerful. Nevertheless, come back to the first C, which is our communication, and that's what we are talking about today. And it is where it is going to create new society, not to be taken very lightly. How many of you know this ratio of 7, 38, and 55? Anybody? This was brought in from California, Albert Mehrabin. He spoke about the communication which we are so proud of, and we're constantly coming close to and writing books and creating seminars. Even today we are talking about communication is going to be for 3 days. It only is useful in our life for 7%. 7% is shocking. It really shook people that it must be kidding, and he said that in 1971 in Silent Messages, his book. Over the period of time that it's more than 50 years, it has coming and again, that what you say is, of course, is very powerful. But what is more powerful, how you say it. We never took it so seriously that it will be so important in our life that what I say it is powerful. But how I say it is even more powerful. And what is that ratio? 5 times. How I say it is 5 times stronger than what I said. Incredible, right? Even go further. What is your body language, what you're saying? It holds 8 times more power than you imagine. And in the middle of all that, AI is entering into field of giving you content. What is left for us? Thank God, AI is going to deal with this 7% only. There's a huge scope of empathy. How we talk to each other. What emotion do we hold while we speak? And over there, this sense of community comes in very, very powerfully. And you will experience that. You have to go through Laksha Dhawan's presentation in Auroville, which he is going to present about in Integral World of how Auroville community lives and so on. It's really a very futuristic dimension of where we are heading into this. What is this tone of? A tone in Auroville, it becomes more of a sense of being. And also this, our beautiful anchor person said about Auroville, sustainability and lifestyle and human unity. It's not a word, it's a lived reality. So even that what we are saying in Auroville, we will say that in our lifestyle. And that's 55%. So the saying becomes a smaller part. The being and doing that becomes a very, very powerful way. So that becomes experience space. And thank you, Radhika, for bringing that dimension, having a very live, tangible example of how communication can go. What I said, what I feel it, and what I experience in the body. The point I'm making is to take this more seriously. This is going to shape the world. This has a power to break the world. War can be outcome, conflict can be outcome of mismanaged communication. So with this invitation, celebrate where you are. You are in the field of communication, the most powerful predicted sea, which will create a new society for us. So we got to take it ourselves more seriously, celebrate where we are, and see you in Auroville. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Uma, for the thought-provoking inaugural address. Now I request Assistant Director, Center for Diversity and Inclusion at Buena Vista University, USA, Professor Artemis Preschel, to deliver the keynote address on life and existential threat in a time of cipher shift.
Hello, honored hosts, sponsors, and guests. Thank you so much for inviting me to give this presentation. I'm deeply honored and humbled. So, life and existential threat in a time of cipher shift. Normally, I would say code shift. Part of my background is in language, in communication. I particularly study accents in areas that are threatened by climate change. I'm interested in accent and language preservation. Also, as an actor and director of stage and film, I'm interested in how we communicate across media. So, what is existence? Is it that continued survival of self and the human race? Or is it that way of life, that how we communicate? Or that awareness of consciousness? Sri Aurobindo said, "This is the meaning of our existence here, the futuristic value and inherent trend of power, to rise above ourselves, to grow into gods, to reveal God in a world of material forms and forces." Now let's consider perhaps an opposite perspective. If we look at Sartre, who was an atheist, he says we are free to choose, which creates an existential dilemma. We are aware of existence and the existence of others. Les autres, we'll come back to that. And existence precedes essence. So our choices define who we are. How we interact is our character. I'll also bring in another dimension. So we'll look at this through the lens of French film, both classical and new wave and contemporary. And that will be the frame through which I will look at this existential threat. Stanford Existential Risks Initiative defines existential threat as human-driven global catastrophic risks that could cause the collapse of civilization. And I'm very grateful for the thoughts that have been shared today. I couldn't have asked for a better frame for this talk. Nuclear war, pandemics, bioterrorism, biotechnology. catastrophic accidents, both personal and within society, related to advances of AI, and effects of extreme climate change and environmental degradation. This threat makes humans a cipher. Cipher has several meanings. We can think of the 1 and 0 in computer code. We can think of the 0 or the nothing in a zero-sum game. But cipher shift could decode a path for humans and society to survive. So code shifting in language is when we change the way that we communicate to accommodate our audience. Just so, a cipher shift can mean a nothingness, which could result from that existential threat, but also the cipher can be a code that we can decode in communication. Hiroshima Mon Amour. Let us hope that that is the past and remains so. But I brought that in because there is an imminent threat. At least there is a number of countries that are suggesting nuclear war. And to consider how they made love in the fallout dust as it falls all around them is a terrifying image. These different perspectives that we have on war link love, grief, and public suffering. One of the most important contributions of this film was the advocacy for nuclear disarmament, non-proliferation, and, as has been proposed today, the solution to nuclear war, which is peace. Now, on the other side, we look at the COVID context. In this particular film, people got to know their neighbors. They got to know their community. Having walked by these people for many, many years, and they never knew who they were until lockdown. How many people do we walk past every day that we see, that we don't necessarily acknowledge? How can we build community to build resilience against this existential threat? Now let's consider a personal accident, in this case a stroke, in which Jean-Dominique Bobet wrote a book by blinking his left eye in Diving Bell and Butterfly. If we consider how it is not only a societal threat, but it can be a personal threat, and as has been mentioned before on this stage, life can change in the blink of an eye. Which brings us to artificial intelligence. In this chess game, we are the creators of artificial intelligence. But is there a time when it can overtake us? One wonders, I certainly do, when I look around in a classroom, at a lunch table, on public transportation, even walking down the street and someone is looking at their phone. They're not looking at who they are with. They're not talking to the person next to them. They're not listening to the lecture. So how many times do these things happen? And as a result, how is there that breakdown in community because of attention to phones? I don't know what you think about artificial intelligence. I personally haven't found it incredibly useful. They don't cite sources, and they don't compare and contrast sources, and they certainly don't curate the sources for me. And without that, without those trail of breadcrumbs, I find it impossible to evaluate the data. But artificial intelligence is real, and it's part of our society, and now part of our relationships. So let's turn to climate change, which is the fourth of those existential threats. In this film, Marcher sur l'eau, Hule walks miles a day to bring water home, and finally the village gets a well. But the meaning of this film is that they have been walking on water the whole time. It's been beneath their feet. And so how many times is it that the solution is right there, but we may not have the tools to get it? Sometimes the machines can be useful. And in this case, it brought the promise of a new life. Which brings me to resilience. It is that adaptation to adversity based on mental, physical, spiritual, and psychological flexibility, lived experiences, and social support that preserve human potential and society at large. Resilience is a term that is very much preferred, certainly in the United States, as a coping strategy. But is it enough? So we'll go back in history a bit to Lao Tzu and consider how important our actions are. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. And watch your character, it becomes your destiny. As an actor, this is very important because the way to create character is through those habits, through those actions. That defines character. So here's a negative example of what not to do. So Michel steals a car in this bout de souffle. He kills a police officer and runs from the police. He dates Patricia. He wants her to run away to Italy with him, but she turns him into the police, thinking he's going to run to Italy. But her choice puts him in further danger. It may extricate her, but not him. Michel is given a gun, and the police shoot him. Justice, an eye for an eye, perhaps. But one of the most important aspects of this film is actually the way it was made, how it was made, which is the jump cut, the moment in time that connects, that goes from one item to the next without anything in between. It can change life in the blink of an eye. And we have that option too. We don't have to wait for the slow fade. We don't have to wait for the perfect dissolve, but rather, we can make that change in our lives in the blink of an eye. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the cultural binary. So in the West, people talk about and deal with problems directly. This is a gross generalization, I realize that. And in the East, people talk about problems so as not to hurt the person's feelings. It's a very different way of life. As a matter of fact, I was having that conversation just this very morning about how there's an approach to collective or societal relationships, and that it's very important to be within the community, and that takes precedence over certainly the American approach, which is to take things head on and to solve a problem right away. But I'd like to bring in Auroville, who perhaps gives us some other guidance. If you have an inner problem and want the solution, concentrate on the problem. But if you want to know the condition you are in, come forward with simplicity and ask for the light. What if there's something beyond the cultural binary? What if there's another way to allow things to occur, to emerge, to bubble up? And one way to approach this too is anti-fragility. Certainly post-COVID in the United States, there's been a real epidemic of emotional issues, especially among the college-age students. And post-traumatic stress is very current. However, Kilsanen coined the term anti-fragility. That is the evolutionary capacity inherent in human psyche, supported by evidence and research to engage in post-traumatic growth. What if we can turn that stress into energy? What if we can turn that stress into a way to grow from that experience to become something more? So post-traumatic growth, according to the National Institute of Health, is positive psychological changes experienced as a result of the struggle with trauma and highly challenging situations. It's important to remain malleable, and at the same time, it's important to be able to transcend that which might be holding us back. In acting, we would call that an obstacle, something that we need to get beyond in order to achieve the goal. So let's take a look at a recent film, Fragile. And Az is an oysterman. So he shucks oysters all day. That means opening up oysters. And he hides his engagement ring in an oyster to ask his girlfriend to marry him. But she says no. But his friends affirm his belonging and help him get through it. And I think that is really the approach here. While the critics might say that this is a feminist approach to comic tropes that challenge stereotypic gender binary, I think it's more than that. It's about community. It's about how the people around us can work together with us to achieve that post-traumatic growth. So in conclusion, I'd like to say that humans build character and actors build characters by engaging in the action of choice. Our choices can be towards ourselves, others, artificial intelligence, and or God. Sartre's We Close has Garçon saying, "L'enfer c'est les autres." Roughly translated as hell is others, but I don't think that's Sartre's intent. Hell is only other people if our relationships with those others are flawed. That brings it back to our responsibility for that communication. Like the oyster, our shells can be hard or soft. We have choices that lead us towards or away from each other. I propose that we approach human, artificial intelligence, divine, others, as our authentic selves with anti-fragile resilience. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pushil. I think a lot of tingling and introspecting is going on inside the minds right here. Thank you for bringing in resilience, highlighting post-traumatic growth, AI, and making the presentation even more interesting by giving examples from films, because recently we hosted a film festival here. And yes, so we are coming to an end, and I would request
Yeah, it's an order, but we are just making a small change by inviting Dr. Belu Mehra to continue with her, to start her presentation.
Because I think the flow, the synchronicity that's happening, that Hiroshima is spoken about by Professor Clement, and Professor Artemis also comes and talks about Hiroshima and the nuclear threat and the anti-fragility, because I see a flow happening, so it's not the end yet. So Dr. Belu Mehra, please come on. So Dr. Belu Mehra, you will be introducing her. So Dr. Belu Mehra has been teaching courses at she's an academic from started her career in the USA, and she's been teaching in Pondicherry University since 2019. And she will tell, I think it's best to give your introduction so that I don't stammer and stutter and lose time. And she's the best author of her own life story. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Radhika, for inviting me for this beautiful inaugural ceremony and for the talk that I'm going to share just in a few minutes. And I want to also express my heartfelt congratulations and gratitude to all the dignitaries here, to everyone who has shared some very insightful, valuable thoughts on the future of communications and how that's going to impact the future society, the future humanity, particularly the examples given by Uma and Dr. Artemis, and before that, the Director, Culture, Professor Clement, and everyone else. So yes, in terms of my story, I'm not going to talk too much about that. It's just that I currently work at Sri Aurobindo Society as a director of a particular vertical called Bharat Shakti, which focuses on Indian culture, studies in Indian culture in the light of Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga. And Sri Aurobindo Society has an MOU with Pondicherry University, and in that regard, I have done several projects, workshops, including developing and teaching a couple of courses at Department of Sociology and Center of Women's Studies in the past few years. So that's just about it. So what I thought I will do today is pose few questions and try to actually give hints to those questions in the light of Sri Aurobindo's vision or his perspective on life, existence, as well as its impact on communication, but particularly his sociological writings, his vision of the future of humanity and society. So, one of the things that we find, which has been hinted in through various examples already, is that we are going through what Sri Aurobindo calls as an age of transition. So this could be the best of the times or the worst of the times, depending on how we look at it, but that's the nature of the transition itself. So we are going through these major evolutionary crises, evolutionary shifts, calling for paradigm shifts in a way, and examples have been given, whether it is, we call it existential threat, nuclear war, nuclear proliferation, dangers of world war and all those kinds of things, certainly ecological crisis. So we don't need to really go about that, to talk more about what ails us, what are the crises in front of us. But in terms of the solutions, we see every day there is some new conference, new seminar, and new insights, new research coming out on how to address these challenges. And yet something seems missing. Something doesn't work. And that brings us back to the communication that Uma also talked about, how communications is one of the 3 C's that's going to determine what kind of future societies and what kind of future communities we build. So if the present is an age of reason, and if this civilizational crisis, this crisis of evolutionary character that we are facing is the product of that age of reason, it makes sense to at least logically think that there may have to be some faculty beyond reason which will have a solution to the crisis that we are facing. Because if we continue to work with the same level of consciousness which created this crisis, we are not going to find solutions. So we keep on doing seminars, we keep on writing and doing things in a different way, and yet we keep coming back to that. So what does that mean, that shift of consciousness, or that rising of consciousness in the field of communications itself? So whether it's as a field of an academic study or as a field of practice, communications, we have all agreed that it's really going to be important in terms of bringing the future. So Let's just take one example. Sorry, I don't know if I pushed something here.
No, it's good.
Okay. So, human unity. How do we stop wars? How do we stop conflicts? We aspire, we dream, we envision something called unity, human unity. And when the conference delegates will go to Auroville on 10th, which I'm going to miss, though I am kind of Auroville's neighbor. I live very close to Auroville. But anyway, I won't be joining the field, the group of delegates which goes on field trip. The dream which started the experiment in human unity that's called Auroville, one thing we must understand is that it's not a mental ideal of unity that is being envisioned or that is at the foundation of this place called Auroville. It is an experiment, but it's not a mental ideal. The experiment has to be on evolution of consciousness so that the need for unity wells up from within. It's an inner psychological unity that we are talking about. Because as soon as we only bring it down to a mental idea of unity, the moment life circumstances, life's compulsions, things like diversity of opinions, even these things come in, unity can very quickly break down. So how do you synthesize a diversity of perspectives, viewpoints, approaches to existence, even approaches to life, approaches to what it means to live a meaningful, purposeful life? That unity has to be experienced from within, an inner unity. So naturally, it compels us to dig deeper into communication. How do we even speak about unity? So the three questions that I'm going to, or the 3 points that I'm going to bring up here, and with just minor hints on all three in the interest of time. Who are the people who talk about these things in these forums? We call those people intellectuals, thinkers, right? So the very first question that we need to rethink when we think of rethinking communications is, who is an intellectual? The second question is there a binary? Often, again, these things came up through the previous presentations also. Generally, there is, a group of a section in the intellectual circle which wants to conserve what is there in the past, and one which is more future oriented. Sort of, we call them conservatives and progressives. Is there a way to go beyond this binary? Because every time we have a binary, communication breaks down, nothing goes beyond. And the third thing is about if human unity, if an inner unity is the inevitable necessity of future. In fact, at one place, Sri Aurobindo, in his seminal writing called The 5 Dreams, his 5 dreams for the world, he speaks about that only human imbecility and stupidity will not be able to see that unity is the need of the future. So if unity is the need of the future society, future communities, and has to be built in with the idea of what the future governance would look like, we have to ask a tough question, which is there something beyond rationality, beyond the age of reason, which can create certain faculties, which can help us cultivate certain faculties within us, within individuals, which can throw a different light on the very practice of communication. So we can within in order to go beyond the binaries, go beyond the conflicts. So very quickly, the first one. Now, there are several writings of Sri Aurobindo which actually hint on this idea of, and he makes a very important but subtle distinction between intelligence and intellect. confuse the term intellectual, those having intellect. An economic theorist or a political theorist, can that be called an intellectual? What about somebody who makes excellent speculation in Wall Street? He's also highly intelligent. Can that person who is applying the economic theory, the finance theory, can that person also be called as a thinker or as an intellectual? In the realm of ideas, but only applying reason as the dominant. Derives from more from faculties like vision, imagination. So yes, it's strange that it was brought up the idea of age, end of imagination, but maybe we need to rethink that, because the moment we end imagination, we fall back into the very black and white binary kind of world of fact versus not fact. Vision, intuition, deep feeling, deep emotion. He gives another example of Chittaranjan Das, who was a lawyer, somebody whom you would not call as an intellectual. And yet he operated some of his writings, nationalistic writings at the time of Indian independence movement, came from a very deep emotional connection to his land, to his people. So that also would make him an intellectual. So if we start thinking like that, our approach to discourse also changes, because it is the intellectuals in a society, in a community, who kind of set the contours, the nature, the questions of a discourse, which then through mass media percolates down and impacts the mainstream understanding of any topic. Call it, take it human unity, peace. Of who is an intellectual, again building upon these examples, is maybe one who also recognizes the limits of reason. That mind or mind-based faculty like reason will only take you up to so far, and beyond that you need to cultivate, to find some other means of knowing. Because again, one has to go deeper into understanding of them. I'm so glad the spirituality is another theme in this conference, because if you go deep into writings on integral yoga or yogic psychology, even from Patanjali onwards, you'll find the study of mind is so important. The layers, the levels of mind. So reason or intellect comes at a certain level of mind. Beyond that, below that and above that, there are many other levels of mind one can tap into. So these are some questions that one has to go deeper into if one wants to know what it really means to be a thinker who thinks right, thinker who thinks well. Then, once you've thought well, you can communicate or express well. So that's just few points on the first question. The next question about the conservatives and progressives. Again, this is a binary where all the communication often breaks down, and it's certainly in the Indian polity, Indian society, it's a huge conflict that we see, and it's happening everywhere across the world as well. In that regard, again, I think about 120 years ago, a rather lesser known essay of Sri Aurobindo, which he wrote under the title Conservation and Progress, has some very insightful lessons for us. And again, see, we think we live in times where these problems have come up, but even 120, 125 years ago, even during the British rule, Indian society was facing some similar kinds of situations. So it's not that we have created new problems, we just haven't addressed the problems that have existed for so long. So in that sense, typically a conservative thinker is one who has some nostalgic feeling towards the past and wants to conserve what was there in the past. A progressive is one whose vision is only directed towards future and who does not find anything worth conserving from the past. Again, Sri Aurobindo reminds us that this is a very, very limited way of understanding how existence moves or what is the true nature of existence. A true intellectual would be one who, instead of falling into these two binaries, will think of past, present, and future as one continuum, because the truth of existence, the truth of life, the deepest truth, call it divine truth, divine will, whatever name we want to give it, name doesn't matter. Whatever intelligence is behind this existence, the soul, the essence of this existence, the formless, intangible truth that is behind all the forms that we see it, that is not a static thing. That is not a static truth. It is evolving, it is gradually revealing, and it reveals through what we can untypically speak of as time spirit, as the spirit of time. And past, present, and future are nothing but clumsy, especially past and present, are clumsy attempts to what is yet to come in the future. So rather than staying stuck with what was in the past, find what was the spirit of the past, what was the essence that gave us the present that we are in. Hold on to that. Know that the outer form must change because the time has moved on. Find what is good in the present, but act in the present, but be the complete truth may await in the future, but know that through your stumblings, through your falls, through your errors, through your mistakes, you still have to act and work toward the future, still being aware that future may still not reveal the truth. So then he gives actually very essential characteristics of a true thinker who can go beyond these binaries, beyond these polarities. And one of the things he says, that kind of a thinker will move beyond presumptuous egoism. That I know what is good for my country. I know what is good for my community. I know what is good for my family, right? Or I know what is good for myself even. No, find some other source, call it divine, call it spirit, call it inner light, call it, in integral yoga there is another term that is often spoken of, call it that psychic presence within, the divinity within, the inner genius within. Refer to that. Take refuge in that, find your source of wisdom in that, and then act in the present without a presumptuous egoism. So that's another way to look at going beyond the polarities, going beyond the binaries of progressive and conservative thinker. And finally, the third thing is going beyond the age of reason. And we are in a way moving towards what Sri Aurobindo speaks of as the subjective age. And whether it is in education, in communication, in health, hence the health and wellness, the spirituality, integration of spirituality in wellness and health sector, in arts, creativity, even politics, and maybe in finance also, there is more and more acceptance of subjective truth, subjective approaches to understanding these disciplines as well. So in that regard, again to recognize that all discourse, all communication, all debate, all discussion is essentially meaningful only if it brings us closer to the glimpse of the truth that we are seeking, and not just becomes another opportunity or another forum for me to express or to lay out my opinion. So then, if I say something, others say something, and we don't come to a synthesis, we don't come to a truth beyond what with which we started, there is no point of that discourse. So a discourse, a debate, a discussion, a communication has to take us to deeper or higher truth. It can actually be maybe a three-way expansion: widening, a deepening, and a heightening of the whatever field of knowledge, whatever topic we are discoursing in or communicating about. And in that regard, again, there have been specific guidance given in terms of how to be a part of a debate or a discussion as an objective observer, not necessarily confusing that whatever I am saying I have bought into that argument 100%, knowing that I can distance myself from the argument that I'm putting out. So there can be many ways to look at a discussion and our participation in an act of communication that way. But I'm just going to share few very specific guidelines, or rather, where is it? Yeah. There was actually a letter somebody had written to Sri Aurobindo as to what would be the best way to participate in a discussion or an act of communication on a topic. And I'm just going to share those pointers because I think as a communicator, as a teacher, as an educator, or as a writer, I'm also sometimes not necessarily mindful of those, but it kind of acts for, as a benchmark for me, that to kind of refer to, yes, am I doing it? To what extent I'm doing it? I'll share that, and then one more last thing from the mother, and then I'll close. So these are actually six points Sri Aurobindo had mentioned as to how to be a good communicator or a good participant in a discussion, knowing that discussion is often not a truth-finding exercise, yet this is how you engage with it. Number one, do not allow the impulse of speech to assert itself too much or say anything without reflection, but to speak always with a conscious control and only what is necessary and helpful. Number two, to avoid all debate, dispute, or too animated discussion and simply say what has to be said and leave it there. There should also be no insistence that you are right and others wrong. But what is said should only be thrown in as a contribution to the consideration of the truth of the matter. Imagine a UN body discussing things like this. Peace is not a chimera anymore. Number three, to keep the tone of speech and the wording very quiet, calm, and uninsistent. Number four, not to mind at all if others are heated and dispute, but remain quiet and undisturbed, and you yourself speak only what can help things to be smooth again. Number five, very important, if there is gossip about others and harsh criticism, do not join, for these things are helpful in no way and only lower the consciousness from its highest level. Rise in consciousness if you want to be a good communicator. And number six, to avoid all that would hurt or wound others. So the point that you made about East, yes, there is truth in speaking truth kindly, not hurting others. And again, the insistence that he had in many other letters and communiques that we find from him. I mean, he was, as we were talking, Lakshya and I were talking earlier about how grand a communicator Sri Aurobindo was. The emphasis on integration, synthesizing diverse viewpoints, and knowing that the truth would still be beyond that is important. So in one very humorous sort of aphorism, he writes that if you have won a debate, what have you really won? You've actually lost a chance to widen your knowledge. So don't aim for winning the discussion or winning the debate, rather aim for truth, aim for widening of that knowledge. And one simple practice to do that is what comes from Sri Aurobindo's own integral yoga practice. And one can go into deeper philosophy, but there were two words given by his spiritual collaborator, the mother, Mira Alfasa, who is the founder of Auroville. She used a phrase called step back. Step back before you take any decision, before you speak anything. Sometimes in my own life, I have found literally stepping back is a reminder. And what do you do as a communicator, as a writer, as an educator, particularly as a communicator and educator? Sometimes I find writing gives me an opportunity to step back away from my strongly held on to opinion so that I can rethink it. So step back, but you step back within. Whether you call it psychic, whether you call it inner light, whether you call it your intuitive faculty, higher, deeper, whatever, but step back within and then come out and see if you already have a new light in which you are seeing whatever it is that you are seeing. So if this can be, I propose to this great conference that if this could be a way to rethink communication as a field of practice and also as an academic discipline, I think we would have made some progress. So with that, I conclude my remarks. Thank you so much for patient listening and giving me an opportunity, Radhika ji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Belumera, for your insightful lecture. So let us all delve deep into this 3 days journey of future communications, space, societies, digital culture, descents, politics, governance, sustainability, art, and spirituality, and try and understand bodies, identities, and gender. As the theme says, rethink and unlearn. So this brings us to the end of today's formal inauguration event, and I would like to request Professor Santisiri to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Risha. Well, very good morning, and it's a really wonderful morning. I've been enjoying all through listening to all the speakers on the dais, and yeah, every beginning need to have an ending. So this is the ending of the beginning, right? And from all the, whatever we have been hearing, I just wanted to tell you this, that reminded me of this morning's thing. India is a land with so many people, okay? We used to have this culture of Indian knowledge system, let me say that. So many, in Telugu we also have the Satakam, we say, Vemana Satakam. In Tamil you have Tirukural. Like this, in Sanskrit we have Bhartruhari. Like this, there are so many people who actually shared their knowledge and for better communication, better way of leading life and sharing their experience and the reality of their life. So I just would like to, this reminded me of one thing that Bhartruhari said, with which I would like to start my vote of thanks, which we used to hear in the radio, All India Radio, every morning, K.U. Rati, that ends with Vagbhushanam Bhushanam. So for the others, I just, because I don't want to take much time, so I'm not elaborating on the sloka, but I would like to give the gist of it. The armlets on the upper arms are not the ones that adorn a man, nor the necklaces and moon-while colored pearls adorn a man. The luxurious bags, the expansive frequently body lotions, the garlands with beautiful flowers, and the fashionable hairstyles are not the ones that really adorn a man. The pleasant, crisp, and grammatically error-free language of speech, the vaku, that comes only with a good educational background, is only the real jewelry that adorns a man. All of the conventional jewelry gets spent out, whereas the good speech is only the real jewelry. With this, thanks to Bhartuhari ji for enlightening me on this, and would like to continue the formality of thanking all the energies that we have actually gotten as blessings. I'm sure the first person that stands is our Vice Chancellor in charge, Professor Tharani Karsu. Had it not been the Academic Council meeting, I'm sure he would have been with us with his enlightening words. He's a great orator, and I really miss him at this occasion because he's not here with us. He's in a very important meeting of the, his administrative structure, Academic Council. So I thank Professor Tharani Karsu sir for permitting us to go ahead with this conference, and Professor Rajneesh Bhutani, the Registrar of the University, and helping us, the Finance Officer, the Statutory Person, Professor Lazar, and the librarian, Dr. Vijay Kumar, who supported us in facilitating the conference, and the Director of Distance Education, Dr. Arvind Gupta, without which this thing wouldn't have been a possible thing. And I now thank all the support that we have got from all over the world. I must mention, of course, the University of Toulon. From the beginning, we have been sharing the brother-sister relationship kind. They're always there for any good and bad. No, it's never the space that, that's another country, they're the professors there. It is never that. They have been part and parcel of Pondicherry University since ages, thanks to Dr. Hanif, who brought them, who recognized. And I must also thank at this occasion Professor Ravindran, who actually introduced us to the entire thing. So thanks, Professor Ravindran. Please pass our regards to Professor Ravindran and Dr. Hanif for actively initiating and way back. And you've done a great job that time, and which we actually came to this day today, what we are experiencing. Thanks to Professor Auroville also, who was part of it actively in engaging and bringing the people over here. And that was a good relationship we have been continuing since then. And University Toulon, France stands first. Of course, Oslo Metropolitan University, Norway. Multimedia University, Malaysia, who has given us a lot of moral support. And also there we do have good paper presenters from there. International Center for Strategy and Communication, Auroville. Integral Word, Auroville, Aware, Auroville. And of course, we have the greatest support always from our own people, EMMRC here. And of course, our own family, Ananda Rangapillai Library, our university, Directorate of Distance Education. Other than that, our security wing, electrical wing, plumbing section, civil section, PRO section, and all the AKAs I must mention, they worked really hard in cleaning the whole thing. And all the faculties, all the scholars, students, one and all present over here. Apart from that, the big list is never ending because it really takes time to acknowledge the contribution. I thank the Director, Culture Studies, Professor Clement, for his enlightening speech. Anytime, as a director or a dean said, every time you attend, I really feel now why I have not done English literature studying under him. Because each time you hear, if you only look at array, it's getting over. I have been experiencing this, right? So thank you, Professor Clement. That was a very beautiful beginning we had with your speech. And then conference director, Arvind Selvan sir, I must tell a word about him. He has been the big brother who used to take all the pressures and pains, and we are the people who always used to throw the ideas, fight, anything for granted. Thank you so much for sharing your shoulder all the time and taking all that, sir. Thank you. And Professor Sevgan recently has become the dean, but has been very active and very supportive, and his presence always made us feel really happy and comfortable. It's not that, we are working with that. He never paid that hierarchical difference with the faculty members. He is just one among us, and he helped a lot. So thank you, Professor. And felicitation address who delivered, Professor Philip Thank you so much. That was an enlightening lecture. We all enjoyed. And Miss Uma Prajapati, what I would say, many people had a discussion why Uma is here. I said, why Uma cannot be here? Uma can be there everywhere. Because it is a place, when you talk of the community, when you talk of the creativity, when you talk of the love, right? And I must say that it's not that my very personal opinion I'm sharing, but yes, I'm also one like you who sat the other side 13, 14 years ago. So let me tell you very clearly, this is the spirit of Auroville. It's not, just the soil. It's the people who made the soil beautiful. People it started with an idea and there's no more. But these are the, palanquin bearers who are taking it forward, who are actually sharing the whole thing, right? So I truly, from bottom of my heart, I appreciate Umaji for being here and sharing her experience. It's really so nice to have you here. Thank you so much for your time. And keynote address, once again, I'm sure I must go back to Professor Ravindran Ji for bringing us one diamond in a very short time. Such a beautiful thing happened. It's a miracle because everything happened for this conference in such a manner, like the moments we just counted upon, we actually got some blessings, divine blessings from everywhere around the world, I guess. So we got today Professor Artemis with us. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that lovely presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed. I'm sure this is the experience of all the audience too. And then Dr. Belu Mehra. So the same thing with what Umaji has gone through. Why Belu Mehra? Then, yes, why Belu Mehra? It's not just easy for everybody to understand everything now. See, that's where we are. That's where, we are here to understand here, sitting together here to understand why, who, when, how, right? So that is the same thing. When I also read, long time ago, not today, Dr. Belu Mehra, that is from Aurobindo's, I'm also a bit connected with the art and culture things. So the first thing that I've read about her is Beluji fell in love with Sri Aurobindo and the mother. And the love never stopped. Her books, countless books she has written, so many beautiful books she has written. And today, you all got the golden opportunity. Actually, she's supposed to rush from here to the airport, but she gracefully agreed to spend some time with us. So thank you so much, ma'am, for that. That's very truly inspiring, and sure it is not going to stop with this. Here itself, I'm declaring that too, with the permission of head, right? So thank you so much for your precious words. We really enjoyed it. So thank you one and all who are here. And the audience, the participants, please enjoy the space here. Any kind of difficulties, please feel free and share with us. All the very best. Enjoy Pondicherry, enjoy Auroville. Happy stay. Thank you so much.
I just want to make one or two announcements. Today, those of you, because we are a team of small people and everybody has their own plans and their own likes and dislikes. But today evening we plan, I think we are going on time. We have only 3 papers in the technical session and we deliberately kept less numbers in the first session because we knew we would overspill in the morning, which is normally happens. We'll have a tea break right now. But I have, Shatadru, have you announced in the bus about the Matrimandir form? Did you announce it? Can you just stand up, Shatadru and Jayati? So Shatadru and Jayati are alumni and they have come from Delhi and Kolkata to volunteer for the conference. And they are taking care of the guests, so because they are also staying in the guest house. So please let them know we have a trip to Pondicherry in the evening and we'll have to be together because we are going into the town and you can't be 50 people walking on the road together. So we will divide ourselves into small groups and we'll have a walking tour of Pondicherry. We'll park the buses in one place. We'll cover a certain area. There are student volunteers. There is a committee for transport and accommodation headed by Dr. Lennon, who is taking good care of all of it. But we request your cooperation. If everybody runs in different directions, we will collapse. And you will also collapse. So please just kind of be connected with us. So for today, definitely in the evening, we're leaving at 5:10 and we plan to spend 3 hours in Pondicherry and mostly by foot. It's a lovely town to explore by foot in the evening. We'll go to the beach. We'll take you to Sri Aurobindo Ashram. We'll take you to heritage architecture, the French town. Everything will be shown to you, but you have to cooperate and keep the time. So the moment we finish here, you'll get a tea or whatever, and immediately we get into buses and we leave for Pondicherry. So you can't go to your guest house or your room and all, you'll miss it. So nobody will wait. It'll be very disciplined. If you're there at the reporting time, you will go. If you're left out, then you'll have to make your own way. But we are trying to do it in a united, in a collective manner. We need your cooperation. So when we come back, we're going to have dinner here again. The dining space is here on the first floor. All breakfast, lunch, dinner here itself. Every day you will have vehicles picking you up, dropping, don't worry. And tomorrow we have film screenings and Harish Sudaniji is here. So after the very powerful panel on gender and media politics, preceding the film screenings, we will have film screenings with discussions. And I encourage all of you to also join in the film screenings and the discussion, because there's a person who's come from the organization called Men Against Violence and Abuse, and he's here to talk about 30 years of his life, of the work he's done, and it's such a great opportunity. This is what a conference is meant for: sharing of ideas, learning from each other, and being open and receptive to that uncertain future which we do not know but which we trust. All right? So the third thing I want to say is the third day, Auroville. You all will have to sleep early after the film screening and discussion, because the breakfast will be served at 7 o'clock, and we have to leave at 7:30 if you want, because when we go to Auroville, we have to follow the protocols of Auroville. You can't say, oh, I'll go when I want, and what is it, and I will not reach on that time. Then you sit in your guest house and you enjoy your air conditioning. But if you reach at 7 o'clock for the pickup point for the breakfast is finished by 7:30. There are buses that are being hired, hopefully with Auroville's help, because outside buses are not allowed inside Auroville. You will see how strict they are about looking at emissions and having fossil burning fuel, vehicles from all over the tourism industry entering and polluting there. They protect their space and they honor their space. And so we want to honor what they hold for. We have to go in whatever vehicle we can arrange for you. 7:30 sharp we will leave here. If you are sleeping in your bed or you're still thinking what to do, then figure out how to spend on your 10th of April. Otherwise, 7:30 we go from here. We reach Auroville at 8:15. How many of you have booked your Matri Mandir? Just raise your hands. Matri Mandir booking. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Now we have to get them all in one slot, talking to Shrimoy. Okay? So I have asked Shatadru to get a list down, what are the bookings done, so we can get in touch with the team at Auroville to make sure that we all go up together and not in separate batches, which Lakshya and Uma will help us. But we need to help them to help us. All right? And 8:15 we are there. We go up to Matri Mandir. Just be open. It's not a religious place. You can go to the Matri Mandir website and read about it before you go there. So you know what that place represents, which is what everybody here spoke about, going to your inner self. And that's just a space that makes it possible. So you're not going to a god, you're not going down and praying to any idol, any faith, no religion, no pranayama, nothing you can do. It'll be strictly pulled out and you'll be rebuked if you try to do anything which is a religious practice. Just a place to be with yourself, and such a beautiful place, and you have the privilege to have it here. It is being arranged by some forces that are conspiring with us to make this possible for you, or aspiring with us to make this possible for you. So help us, because we can't run after everybody. Everybody here is mature and whatever. So we will give you basically the guest house, all the people in the guest house. The teams are there, but Shatadru and Jayati would be your nodal coordinators for the Pondicherry trip and the Auroville trip, so that you have any issues, you can report to them, you can tell them, and they can give you their numbers and help us to make it possible. We have arranged lunch at Unity Pavilion, because our inauguration was going to happen at Unity Pavilion, which did not happen for very unfortunate reasons. And I want to put it on record, for very unfortunate reasons, we could not go to Auroville for the inauguration. But the inauguration here is an expression that the Unity Pavilion has come here. Everybody has come here. So we will have lunch at Unity Pavilion, in the garden of Unity Pavilion, and we will visit the Hall of Peace at Unity Pavilion. All the links have been given to you. If you don't have a link, I will make a roster, share it with Jayati and Shatadru, and they'll share with you. Any information you need, please ask, and you will get it. It's very easy. So we will go to the Hall of Peace after Matri Mandir. We will have lunch at Unity Pavilion. After lunch at Unity Pavilion, if you want to contribute for your own self, there is a unit called Swaram in Auroville, and they offer a sound bath. And it's very special, but nobody wants to give us a discount because they also need money to be sustainable, right? So they have a contribution that we have to give them. I have to find out what the price is. We'll check how many of you are interested. We'll tell you how much Auroville Swaram is asking, but I met the person who started Swaram, Aurelio, and he said they'll be very warm and they'll be tired after a morning. If you want, I give them a sound bath at Unity Pavilion. But then we need to rent Unity Pavilion and we need to pay Swaram for their sound bath. So those who are interested and would like to contribute, we will find out the cost of donation for the sound bath and the space for the Unity Pavilion for the sound bath, and for an hour you can have relaxation with sound bath after the lunch at Unity Pavilion. And thereafter Lakshay is going to be just stand up, Lakshay, so they see. No, face them. Yeah. So Lakshay is also an Aurovillian, and he is a very, very strong collaborator on the conference. And then we will be surrendered and given over to Lakshay, who will, and maybe Uma will also join him, and maybe others will also join him. And you will meet a few Aurovillians, and you will see Auroville through people who have left their homes from all over the world and have come here to fulfill a dream. Now, what is that dream? You will get to know after lunch and possibly after the sound bath, if everything goes miraculously the way it's going now. You have a choice. You don't want the sound bath, you can just sit in the Hall of Peace. You don't want that, you can go for a walk. You don't want that, you can go for shopping. Yeah, very important. Shopping. You go to visitor center and do shopping and you buy more things, but Auroville gets something out of it. So it's good to do shopping in visitor center. Okay? So it's up to you, but you'll have a lot of time with yourself and with a loosely kind of structured tent, and then we will leave Auroville at about 5:15 or so, or 5 o'clock. So we are here by 5:30. You refresh yourselves, you have a tea, and 6 o'clock we have the valedictory. Some of you may be leaving earlier, 2 or 3 or 4. We will miss you, and you will miss, but there's always another time, maybe next year. Thank you.
There is a small announcement. We will be having a tea break for 10 minutes now, after which we will begin with the first session.
Tea break, same venue, above, right? On the first floor. Yeah. So you'll have to have a quick washroom and tea because the paper presenters have arrived and they're waiting for us.